Welcome to the Business Bravery podcast, inspiring stories from coaches and course creators to help you do the next brave thing in your business. Coming up on the Business Bravery podcast, I'm your host, Tiffany Gilliland, an Australian business and mindset coach with 10 years experience in online marketing and the creator of the Business Bravery framework. I help coaches like you to be brave so you can stop dreaming and start doing that next big brave step and finally make more impact and get more clients. From speaking on camera to selling to launching, my approach to bravery helps you take bigger leaps without the mindset spirals. It's the secret ingredient to bigger results. In this episode, I had the pleasure of chatting with Lou Portass, an amazing coach I've known for years, about her very interesting journey. We discussed how she went from being a virtual assistant to coaching and now starting her membership program called Home. Lou shared her experiences with stress and burnout, emphasizing how important it is for women to be true to themselves and not just follow what society expects. She talked about being brave, making decisions that match who we really are. And we also talked about rebellious curiosity, which means being open to trying different things to see what works best for us. Lou stressed the power of having a community where women can support and learn from each other. She shared her own bold steps, like leaving her job as a lawyer to start her craft business, and the challenges of letting go of certain business ideas. We discussed how being brave, thinking about ourselves, and having a supportive community are crucial in both business and personal growth. I'm so excited to share Lou's powerful stories of business bravery, past, present, and future. Now, who's ready for some business bravery inspiration? Let's dive in. Okay, hello everyone. I am here with the amazing Lou Portass, who I have been in contact with on the internet for a number of years now. I'm not sure how long ago it was when we first met, but we met in a mastermind a couple of years ago.
We did, and I think in that period that we all want to forget, which was the lockdown period, I think.
Yeah. Oh.
I think it was just before, maybe.
Yeah. So we've been connected for quite some time. I have also had the joy of being a client of Lou's and in a coaching session of hers, which was amazing. And she helped me make some amazing breakthroughs, actually, and helped me to transition from my part-time day job into doing my business full-time. There was just something that you said in that call that just really helped me to just go, oh yeah, actually, this can be a safe move. So I don't know if that comes up later, we'll talk more about it. But otherwise, yeah, please introduce yourself, let people know who you are, who you help, what you're passionate about, and what brave things you're doing in your business right now.
Hi everybody, and thank you for inviting me to have a conversation with you. And lots has changed since those lockdown days. So, as I think we'll probably go on to talk about a little bit later, when Tiff and I knew each other in that mastermind, which got me through that lockdown phase, if I'm honest, I was virtual assistant. And it was really interesting because during that period of life, our lives, all of us, the global situation that's going on, VA clients literally seemed to appear out of the air. And I got really busy. I realised that I couldn't give them what I wanted to give them and give myself what I wanted to give me. And that has really been the key reason why since that time I've pivoted away from that. And in fact, I finished with my last virtual assistant client almost exactly a year ago today. And I am and have shifted towards working more in the coaching space, as Tiff says. I ran the two together for a bit, and I mean, it might be an interesting question to do whether I'd be brave enough just to go, right, this is it, draw a line in the sand. I don't know. So now I work with women, and I'm about to launch a membership called Home, and this is all around kind of my journey through life. My background originally was as a lawyer, and I burnt out from that job or that career. And then I've actually burnt out twice during that. Once was the end and once was a lot earlier. And then in my first business, my craft business, I also burnt out. And this set me on a journey of kind of inner understanding, but it's been a lot deeper than, I would say a lot deeper than that. to realise that actually, certainly here in the UK, we have a history, a really interesting speckled history as women. And in the 1980s and 1990s, when I was growing up, I think we were still being told who we should be. We should be good girls. We should do this. Because now we had something approaching equality with men, we could go out and do everything. And that meant we should be wanting these high-powered careers. And I think it's 10 years probably since I left the law, maybe a bit less, but a long time. In that time, I have really been on this massive journey of rediscovering who I am, remembering the magic that the feminine energy that we all, male or female or any other gender, have within us, that can bring to us, that we can lean on, and that can complement the more masculine, the more structured side of us. And so Home, which will be launching, the work that I've been doing since, is all around reconnecting women with their own truth. And I don't believe there is one truth. I don't believe I can present myself in a way that asks the people I want to work with to see me and want to know how to become like me. It's all about learning to become like themselves, who they truly really are. And I think this is a really key thing that many women, and in my dreams all women, would come to in their 40s during this phase, where we are, there is this massive change for us. Really get back to our bare essence, our truth, and to live that truth rather than all of those ideas and conditionings that have been imposed on us by society, institutions, our parents, all of it. So that's where I am now, and it's called Home, because I think we all of these women that I'm talking to really could benefit and will benefit from that journey home to themselves, before then they can kind of expand out that self, that who I am and that truth, to light up the world around.
Oh, wow, that is so amazing. And just, I love what you're talking about. I mean, obviously, like the subject matter of like us being told who we should be and that kind of thing. And yeah, like I remember, because I grew up in the 80s and 90s too. And just there was this pull between being the good girl, but also if you were going to go into business, you kind of needed to be as like stronger than the men, right? And not be emotional. And there were a lot of, at least to my mind, I picked up a lot of rules around those kinds of things. And I've spent the last like 10 years untangling all of those rules myself, right? And for me also like unlearning my people-pleasing behaviors. So I guess that's why I maybe responded to those rules a bit more than most. But yeah, I can just, oh man, I see the value in what you do, of course, and just I can just really feel that for people and that change that they get to go through with you through that as well. And definitely my own sort of, I don't know, it's going to sound weird, but my own feelings and vibration around the whole bravery thing. I think there's just like a lot of overlap in the way that maybe we see things, and I mean, how we help people a bit, and just the bravery in that, to be able to say, no, here's who I am. And, here's, I don't have to follow society's rules and things like that. Like, do you feel there's a lot of bravery in that? I'm putting a lot of words in your mouth.
It's okay. That gave me chills, can I say, first of all. I think it's before I move on to answer the question, going back to the Tiff I knew in 2020, I don't think she would have said any of that to me. So that's amazing to see where you've come in that time, and the magic that brings to us, and there's joy in you in a way that there wasn't then. And I think that's a huge part of this journey that I want to walk with other women on. The bravery, I think, is huge. Because of our conditioning, and because everywhere, isn't it? Our parents, there's that whole thing of them not understanding how we go in a different direction, because I think their direction, my parents were in their 70s, I think their direction was much closer to the direction of their parents than than mine has been, because the world has kind of opened up, hasn't it? Like literally, figuratively, all the ways. And it is a brave thing I'm offering women, a brave path, I guess. I'm offering these. It's putting ourselves first, and that isn't what the good girl did. And that's who we were, many of us, me included, were brought up to be. You know, I still have moments of crisis where I feel like I've done something wrong and my body doesn't feel safe. And that's, you know, it's all connected with that. And this brave walk isn't to get to a conclusion. It's ongoing. It's like, I am prepared to keep unraveling the layers. I am prepared to walk with myself, be with myself. And those things are all really uncomfortable, because we live in a society that makes it so easy to look for solutions outside of ourselves, to look for safety outside of ourselves. And, you know, thankfully, more and more women of my generation and succeeding generations are kind of waking up to the fact that there's something that doesn't feel right for them, and that there has to be another way, a better way for them personally to live their lives. But it's brave because changing so much, not just in yourself, but of the world around you, by walking authentically. But it's so worth it.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And yeah, what are some things that you're doing now in your business that are walking that from my terms, brave path for you? It's around just like being their authentic selves. Oh, that's not the right way. That's not the way you put it, but you know what I mean. What are the brave things that you're doing now in your business, and like what are some examples of ways that you are embodying this in your business too?
Yeah, I think the way the term I use is connecting with your bare essence and living that truth, which is much wordier than brave, obviously, because this is me and I like words. The whole evolution of business. I think I started my VA business in 2019. I left my part-time job 2 weeks before the UK went into lockdown. And in that time, it's all required bravery, because we're not taught this stuff, because you're fighting your conditioning all the way. And, you know, right up to now, I have an absolute love of learning. I order about 4 or 5 books that are not novels. I can't remember the last time I read a novel, a month. And I've got all this knowledge. And for me, the challenge I am working through now is being brave enough to share that knowledge, because that always feels like I could just know something more to be able to give more. So I don't give anything. One of the things that home is going to be about is sharing all of that stuff that's in here and getting it out into words or paper or video, or you know, whatever medium seems right at the time. And it's believing that in yourself, isn't it? This whole business thing is, when you're employed, you have to believe in yourself long enough to get through the interview and be offered the job. And then you can leave that self-belief at the door in many jobs, because you need to carry on, keep yourself going through your probationary period. I don't know if you have those in Australia, but otherwise, you know, once you're in, you have to do something pretty bad to get chucked out, don't you? Whereas in business, it's every day. It's every day, isn't it? And I think we don't celebrate that in ourselves enough. We don't celebrate the bravery. We don't celebrate figuring stuff out when there's nobody there to tell us. And it's just, I am in awe of the people that have gone before me and that I'm walking with. They have this vision and they make it happen. And I guess right now, my biggest brave step is going to be to making that vision for helping women in this way through this membership come to fruition, because it would be very easy to keep all of that knowledge in my head. And it has been probably for the last 2 or 3 years.
Yeah. Oh gosh, there's so many questions I want to ask, and I'm thinking, which one do I ask first? Okay, I'm going to ask this one completely selfishly. from all the knowledge that you've gathered for like that you're going to put into your home membership, what is one of the things that sort of bubbles up to the surface? Because I know this wasn't part of the info pack. I'm going off script. But what's something, yeah, that maybe you wish you'd have learned earlier, or you would just love to pass on to people? What bubbles up to the top?
What bubbles to the top is the stuff that we were never taught at school, and it's the culmination of and the self-development work that I've done in the last 10 years, and it's that our energy is so much more complicated, or exists first, that we are energetic beings as well as physical beings, and that, you know, there are so many ways that we can connect with our energy, whether that be through understanding and balancing the masculine and feminine in us, whether it be through our chakra system, which is a great tool for healing, whether it be through other modalities such as numerology, and that they don't have to be scary, and that actually all of these things are great tools to help us understand ourselves at a deeper level and to go on a journey with ourselves. I don't see any of them as prescriptive. I see them more as like, yeah, these little nuggets of gold that can help us to learn to get to know ourselves more deeply. And again, that's not how many of these things have been represented in my lifetime, because they've been represented in a much more masculine or controversial way, I suppose.
Yeah. What would be an example of like being represented in a more masculine way versus the way that you're looking at things?
So when I think about my knowledge of, I have amassed a huge knowledge of all kinds of energetics. You know, essential oils, for example, carry an energy and can help us work with ourselves on an energetic and emotional level. We haven't, again, it's similar in Australia. I wasn't brought up in a world where anything was important beyond our physical health. And now we're understanding that emotional and energetic health play a huge part. And I think that focus on our physical health is part of a more masculine way of being, because the masculine is structured, the feminine is more flowing. That's the most simple way to put it. You know, the masculine is our rules and our building blocks, and the feminine is magic that flows around that and makes things what they are, I guess. And you see it in, I mean, I remember in the teen magazines when I was a teenager, you know, you'd read your horoscope, and it was very much prescriptive. It was very much, this is how it's going to be. And I don't see any of the work I do and any of the modalities that I use as being prescriptive. I think that it's much more valuable, has been to me, and therefore I want to share that, to use it, but not to confine yourself. And I think, again, not just through these modalities, but the world that we grew up in, we were kind of shown that confining yourself. I am a lawyer, I am a teacher, and our parents stayed doing those things, or mine did, and most of my peers, for their entire lives. And, you know, now we're seeing a shift away from that, which I think is great, because that's showing us that we are starting to recognize and respond to our needs in the moment, carry on. So yeah, I mean, it's a huge conversation. I could fill the whole hour, but I won't.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to get a handle on it in that perspective of what you were talking about. And yeah, I mean, I've been learning more and more about the energy side, and I guess the female thing. And even as the years have gone by, I think my understanding has changed on that side of things, and just sort of like those magical coincidences that can happen. Like, I think that comes from the feminine side or something, and just knowing when my energy is off and things like that, and just yeah, then at least now, even when my energy is off, I can see these little pockets coming through to me, and it's like, oh yeah, like at the moment I've been getting some angel numbers coming my way. And if you'd have talked to me decades ago, because like numerology was a thing in the 90s too, and I was like, oh yeah, whatever, I mean, oh nice, but kind of. But now I'm just like, yep, I'm just going to take that as my sign, right? Like on my pedometer, it was like 4 steps yesterday. And I was just like, that's what I happened to look at it. I'm like, I'm going to take that as a sign. And yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah. And it just sort of helps me shift into that feminine side. And I think, I mean, I hope you're right. I don't know. For me, I think I've created nearly an echo chamber because I hang out with people who do business online, who are into this stuff, especially since starting this podcast. I get to talk to more people who are into this stuff. The odd times when I talk to someone who still has a 9 to 5 job and they're like complaining about their work, and it's like, oh yeah, you're not my people. So I don't know. Do you think that like it is coming through to people who maybe don't work in our online world as well, and it's sort of becoming more mainstream, probably through things like TikTok, dare I say, stuff like that? But
well, this is really interesting because I have a group of friends who I met in a coaching program, so all online, the world that you're talking about, exactly this conversation, which is that we have this space which is so beautifully conscious, where the emotional and energetic intelligence levels are high, and where we can have conversations that we can't have in real life. And I think that's the next step. I have got real life friends, but those friends are also in business, I think. But I do think that it's starting to hit the mainstream, if that's the right terminology. But it's going to be a slower burn, I would say. When you're running your own business solely, or actually at all, you've got these pockets of time where you can let your curiosity guide you. And I think when we're in a 9 to 5, and side note, I'm currently part-time in a 9 to 5, so I've got this great comparison. When you're in that, you kind of like in what my mum would call send mode. I'm here to do this in this time, and there isn't time for anything else. Because I think people like me will go back into 9 to 5s for a bit, and it's been really valuable. And we'll be starting to have these conversations, I think.
Yeah, I definitely think. And I think even though there's more people, like people in the 9 to 5 world, more of them are eyeing off businesses and side gigs and things like that, just because, I mean, here in Australia, the costs are rising, but the wages are not rising. So there's just going to be more people who have other ways of creating other sources of income, I think. So I think it probably will pervade through that, because doing your own business is like the most personal development you can kind of do, isn't it? Just it sort of forces you outside your comfort zone.
And that's kind of where I started with all of this, because I'd had a business which was a craft business, which I wound up because I went into it with, I guess, a 9 to 5 attitude, or that thing that we've heard about an entrepreneur is somebody that works 80 hours a week for themselves to avoid working 40. Somebody famous said that, didn't they?
Yeah.
And I totally bought into it, and that was my third burnout, and I haven't since then, because I have come to notice the cues in myself and be conscious and understanding enough of myself to stop it way before it gets to that. Yeah, it's just, I've forgotten what the question was you asked. You'll have to edit this bit.
Oh no, it's probably staying in. But now here's the problem. What did I ask in the beginning? Here's my creative brain. Yeah. Just that I think people are taking on the 9 to 5, like they're taking on side gigs, and through that, it's going to force people to do personal development.
Yeah.
That's I think where we.
Yeah. I think. Oh yes, the journey. Yeah, that's what I was saying. How I got into this which started out as anti-burnout and has evolved massively in the time since, was that whole, you with a certain idea, because of the conditioning, because of what you've heard about how it has to be, and because we live in a world that's quite linear in the sense that it goes, this, if you want to be this, let's say lawyer, because I was, this is what you have to do, this is the steps, and then you get there and you are that, you do that. And you think coming into business that there's just a blueprint, don't you? And you follow what somebody else did and it'll all be okay. But we are all individuals. We all, if you want to look at the energetics of it, we all have a different balance of the masculine and feminine that we can bring into, all have different astrological chart, or we're all different human designs. However you want to look at it, we are all different. And I think the biggest learning for me of entrepreneurship has been that actually what makes us different is what makes us stronger, and what makes us, when we embrace that difference, enables us to actually create a life and a business that nourish us rather than deplete us. And my first one definitely depleted me. And then going back to what we were talking about right at the beginning of this, started noticing that in myself with the VA business. That's when I started pivoting away from it, because I could see that I could do business in a different way that would enable me to give more, but actually take care of myself more as well.
Oh, that's interesting, because I'd love to hear, like, what are some things that you're doing in a different way that allow you to look after yourself more, if you don't mind me asking, like between the two businesses. Just because from my perspective, like, I still do some marketing services for clients and I also do coaching, and yeah, it's sort of very different energies. And yeah, I could use some inspiration about that's what I'm. Do you mind if I ask that? Completely selfishly.
No, not at all. For me, for me, this is all part of this journey of coming home to ourselves and understanding ourselves. And the body is actually a massive tool in that. I don't know if you remember, I don't know whether I was teaching it, a long time taught this practice of the pause, practicing the pause. Don't know if I'll explain it. So, and this started when that VA business was starting to get to a point where I couldn't sustain it, which was, I would find myself, I would notice tension somewhere. It might be that I would notice that my shoulders were up by my ears, or that my heart was racing, or I had clammy palms, whatever it was that at that time were my cues that this was making me uncomfortable or anxious, I guess. And when I noticed it, rather than push, I would say to myself, right, okay, I might put my hand on my heart, I might just stop and close my eyes. I'm going to take some deep breaths. So I'd do that. And then I would ask myself, what do I need right now? And then I would do that thing. And often it would be to get up and walk away from my desk and get a glass of water, or maybe walk around the block, which took 5 minutes. Or maybe it was, I need to walk away from this because I am going nowhere fast. And you'll remember me talking about productivity, and that actually sitting at our desk, tying ourselves to our desk, does not equal productivity. It was all part. So that was kind of, I would say, for me, the beginning of a massive deep dive, and it's ongoing, into noticing this connection between my physical body and, I guess, my exterior world. And so now, with everything, not just business, I take time to notice and to understand. So it will be, it's a bit like, I guess it's a bit of a mindfulness practice. I'm feeling, that's interesting. And what's beneath that? Latterly, it's been, I don't feel safe. And you mentioned safety a while back in this conversation. Something about what's happening right now doesn't feel safe. And then we go deeper, and it will be, okay, can I make it feel safe? Or is this telling me something that I need to acknowledge? And it's, it's way more complex than that. And it involves this state of being able to witness myself, notice without judgment, which again is the mindfulness, and then take the appropriate action. And that's hard and that's brave, because the world that I grew up in, and possibly you and many of your listeners, was one where you don't notice it. You carry on regardless, you push through. You were talking about needing to match men. That's, I think, for women of my generation, where that ethos came from.
Yeah.
It's like, you don't show weakness. And showing that you can't keep up, or emotion, or any of those things, was, and thank goodness this is changing, was showing weakness.
Yeah.
Again, and so what I've just described is the approach that I take, but I can't give you like a blueprint, because what you notice in yourself would be different, and where you are in terms of your own self-understanding will be different to wherever I am. And it's an ever evolving journey, but it's making that decision to start going, okay, I am going to notice, I'm not going to ignore these cues, and I'm going to see where that takes me. And I love this phrase that I use, which is rebellious curiosity. Everybody else might not be going there, but what if I just follow this and see where it takes me? And it's worked out for me every time.
Oh my gosh, I love that. Rebellious curiosity. I mean, talk about, like, just for me, talk about bravery, because it's just like, oh yeah, I mean, like, I'm going my own way, and yeah, seeing where it leads me and what works for me. I always love finding that, and connecting more with how I feel in certain situations and things like that. It's funny, when I asked that question before, I was expecting, I don't know, the practicalities of, oh, well, I do this many clients and, this many hours, and that's, and it's just this whole different side of things. And I always love that about talking to you, and about, reading and watching your content and everything. It's just always comes from this place of just like, it makes so much sense, but I didn't see it coming. But then it's just, like, in a good way. It like makes so much sense, and I love it. So yeah, that's awesome.
Because talking about the stuff that we've learned or been taught to not see, and it's literally right below the surface, isn't it? It's not buried that deep, and it's not some mythical thing that none of us can access. It's there. It's just, one day we have to make a decision that we're gonna let that rebellious curiosity take us there, and start investigating who we are, and what actually matters to us, and what our own truth is. And it's magical when we do it. Again, where this idea for sharing this in a community space, which is what I want to build with Home, came from, because I think there's also a side that is, it's really easy to be doing this as the lone wolf, particularly when, as we were saying earlier, we perhaps in our physical world, there aren't people who are doing this work. So creating a virtual community, to me, feels like the right way to kind of create this movement, I guess. We had historically all the time, and still in communities that are not as westernized as we are around the world, women spend their days working together and sharing together. And I think we have to now use the tools that we've got, and the internet and everything, to create what's missing in our actual physical local worlds.
Oh yeah. Oh man, just the power of women working together, and those supportive communities and things like that. And just, oh man, that's something that's been amazing about this online business world, just finding so many more people who think that way. And yeah, I can see the power of that in your membership for sure. So I'd like to shift now into kind of the past, some of the past bravery you might have done. And I'm not sure if you want to talk about brave steps or thoughts, feelings, energy that you went through, either going into your VA business or from VA into coaching. I don't know which one feels more powerful for you, or which one sort of aligns with your home thing, but just, yeah, what brave steps did you do, and how did that feel?
I probably Actually, it's probably actually a combination of all of it. I feel like one of the bravest things I ever did was that day when I said to my husband, I can't be a solicitor anymore, a lawyer anymore, because even though I'm live in the countryside, so I wasn't a huge amount of money, but still it had the potential, if I'd ever become a partner, that I still don't really know how I did that. But I did, and it's how come I'm here today. And I think one of my friends actually has said to me in the past, you don't fear change, and I don't, but I still feel like that's like the impact that our decisions have on other people often is what makes them brave, more than, for me, more than, because like I don't particularly fear change. Like I love it. That's I guess where the phrase rebellious curiosity comes from. Where's it going to take me? Who do I get to evolve into? And I knew coming out of that I really wanted to start this craft business, and I hung on to that for too long. So I kind of went from this ultimate bravery to not being brave enough to let it go. But when I did, I knew it was the right thing. And I have done, so I left the law. And we grew, again, this is going back to the world we grew up in. It was you get a job for life. So to make it okay for myself to do something for as long as it feels good and then to change, that's taken bravery. The VA business didn't feel like, going into that didn't feel like a brave thing, because I knew I could do it. It's one of the few times in my life I've just known I can do that, because by that time I'd run it down, so I only had one client left, but I had a phenomenal relationship with her, and that it speaks to the good girl conditioning again. I didn't want to let her down. I didn't want to upset her. I didn't want to deal with any emotion that she might have around my decision. And yet this voice inside was saying, you've got to just stop. It happened to actually coincide with us moving. So, it was a really easy, I say easy, it was the right time to draw a line in the sand. But that, having difficult conversations that feel emotional, because I think when you develop really great relationships with people in business and probably in employment, there is that whole thing of, I'm letting you down. And that good girl conditioning I don't want to do that to people. However, all of the work I've done and all of the work that I share is the aim is to get us to a place where we go, no, I don't want to let these people down, but I'll be let if I carry on. Or I'll be I have to figure out what's best for me. Because actually, if I'm not doing what's best for me, as I alluded to before, or any of us, I don't believe that if we're not honouring ourselves, we can't actually give of our best to the situations, people, businesses, whatever it is that we find ourselves in.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely.
Side note.
Okay.
That isn't the reason to to get to know yourself, but it's a very valuable byproduct, because I don't like this idea that we have to take care of ourselves in order to take care of other people. That's not what I'm getting at. It's more of a, when you've got this baseline, this foundation of, this is me, this is what I want, this is I'm feeling my feelings, and this is what they're telling me, then the energy you're giving out is just different, and I don't know, just more magical.
Absolutely. I mean, on one of these other podcasts, one that just came out last week at the time of recording, was with Eloise, and she was talking about how when you're saying yes to everyone else in those situations, you're actually saying no to yourself. And that was really powerful. And it's like, oh, for me, like if I'd have learnt that and really taken that on board as a people pleaser, it's just like, oh yeah, actually, and just in that whole situation of working longer for someone, and we've all been there, we've all done it, or avoiding the difficult conversation. And it's like, feels helpful because it's like, oh, I'm not letting them down, but you're kind of also saying no to yourself through that is sort of a whole different way of looking at it. Yeah.
And you're undermining, I think, when you're over giving so you don't let someone down, what it's doing is it's hacking away at you, like lower down, if you like. It's undermining, therefore, your relationship with them, because you can get into a point where you resent what you're doing for them, and that's going to affect that relationship. And I often think to myself, I love Brené Brown, and she has a phrase which is clear is kind, and it's basically a way of talking about boundaries and putting them in place, but being clear about your expectations, what you can deliver, what you can offer, is kind, not just to the person you're working with, but to yourself as well. And that's, you know, that's that I come back to that philosophy a lot, and that's actually probably what got me through that conversation of, I'm closing the business and you're going to have to find another VA. Obviously, I didn't put it quite that bluntly, but I can keep dragging this on and she won't understand why I'm not really interested anymore. Because once you've made a decision to end something, your vision, your energy is focused somewhere else, isn't it? You know?
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes, absolutely. I've definitely done that in jobs. And I've had that with people who work for me as well, who, the quality of what they're doing goes down. You can kind of see those telltale signs, warning signs or something like that. Just, sorry. I'm thinking about some difficult conversations I have to have with people.
And that just, even the way you were then, the sound of your voice changed slightly because you can feel the weight of when it's not right.
Yes.
So this whole process of getting to know ourselves, you get to then notice that in yourself, as you just have, and and that's when you go, okay, well, and it might not be ending that working relationship, it might just be redefining it, or it could be something else.
Yes.
But once we start to notice this in ourselves, and this is both, I think, speaks to energetic and emotional intelligence, when we start to notice this about ourselves, then we get to show up in a way that actually facilitates these conversations, I think, because you're going into it with okay, this is best for me, it's not great, but this isn't about anything that this other person has done. Things have changed and we change. It's a constant evolution from birth to death, isn't it? A business is a constant evolution from its inception to when you close it, if you close it. And it's, you know, if you think, I don't know anybody in business, any woman, sorry, in online business, let's be clear, who is doing now what they were doing when they started. In fact, I can't think who it was, but an Instagram post yesterday, somebody who's incredibly successful, and every year they've changed what they do.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So what they're doing now looks massively different to 7 years ago, but that gradual evolution, and that's brilliant, because I think it's all about change and experiencing it all.
Yeah. And actually, I think that's one of the magical things about online business is you get that freedom to be able to do that if you're in a job. I don't know. I tend to always find jobs where I'm basically a little entrepreneur in my own little space, though. So I usually find a way to turn it into what I need it to be. But that's my thing. It's like I do my own business because otherwise I work 80 hours a week for someone else without getting paid for it. So I might as well work 80 hours for myself. Yeah. Oh, man. Okay. Sorry. So now, normally I sort of shift into what things you have coming up in the future. And I know you have your home membership that is launching soon or has already launched, or what else do you have brave things that you're doing in the next few months?
Hello.
I
lost you for a minute. You froze. It's yet to be pinned down, but probably the last week of the month.
Okay. Awesome. Last week of September, right?
September.
Yeah. So yeah, it's probably be October before this is out. Yeah.
yeah. Oh, you've gone. Where did you go?
Oh, yeah.
I've lost you. I can't see you. Ah, literally, it's just there. You are. It just closed. It or minimized Safari. That is an example that I have wanted to have a membership since I can remember. And I listened to the advice of people who are not me, which was you need to have done this before you do that, or it's going to be really hard. The biggest one was it's going to be really hard. But actually, the reason that I'm forward with it this time is because I've taken a step back and I've thought, okay, these people aren't me. And what I know about me is I'm a reflector about human design, which basically means I don't have boundless energy. And another part of my human design is that community is massively important to me. And therefore, to create something where I can create value and bring people together without having to spend hours in one-to-one conversations, which they're definitely valuable and I want to keep doing, but I want to have this way of sharing with the world and interacting with people that does a specific place at a specific time, because then I know I can give of my best. And that isn't right for everybody, but I have come to a place of understanding myself well enough to know that that's the way I can give of my best. And somebody who isn't me and isn't a reflector can give of their best in Telegram coaching. Voice coaching is a big thing now. And I know people who have totally different energy to me who can be voice coaching 5 people at once. I think I would be a puddle on the floor if I tried that. But I can still have that multiple people at once and give value. And I think that's a key message that I will be putting into this space and in all of the spaces is figure out what works for you and be brave enough to at least get rebelliously curious with it and give it a try.
Yeah. I mean, I get that too, though. I'm a manifesting generator, but I too wouldn't be able to I wouldn't enjoy doing the 5 people at once voice coaching or something like that. Like I too, and I also want to say, like, I've been in online marketing for 10 years, and every rule there's someone who broke it that made money. And I've seen people go straight into memberships and they're making 6 figures plus now. So yeah, just for yourself and for anybody listening, just it's totally okay to not listen to the guru and try it out yourself and see what actually works and clicks, because of that, the different energy makeup that we have and what can attract people. I say that to you, Lou, because you would understand. People listening might not, but just that feminine energy flow that just creates opportunities and possibilities. It's all different. I think it's different in every single one of us. So
yeah. And I think it's thinking back to that first business I had, and I was saying earlier about thinking that there was a way you do it. There is a way that you succeed inside a bricks and mortar, a law firm. That's basically my experience. There is a way, which is that you do what everybody else has done. And so it's really easy to think that that's how running your own business should be. And don't get me onto the topic of the word should. As you know, it's my least favourite word in the English language.
Yeah.
But that's been a learning. It's been 10 years of trial, error, getting back up again, and then going deeper with that self-development work. I think originally it was probably because I had work-related stress. I probably had some counselling, very traditional, and over the years it's changed because I've wanted to work with myself in different ways. And I think that's a really important message, is that just because one thing didn't work for you doesn't mean something else can't. And just because everybody else does something in business, in self-development, whatever it might be, doesn't mean that's the thing that's right for you. But you get to try it and go, okay, I tried that and this bit was interesting, but that bit didn't land.
Yeah.
And then try something and then move on to something else. And to me, that's just the joy of, in a way, it's the joy of being human. It's that experiencing things and not needing to experience that thing necessarily for the rest of your life, but being in the moment and enjoying it whilst you're experiencing it, you know, whether that's self-development or anything else for that matter.
Oh man, so powerful. Just, yeah, completely agree with you, completely agree. And just, yeah, just has definitely been my experience too. And finding the thing and having the bravery, or, you know, just finding your home, in your words, of just, here's what works for me, and I'm okay with it being different, even though everybody else says it should work another way. It's just so powerful. Love it.
And I don't need anybody else to understand it. I think that's a really powerful part as well.
Oh, I might need potential clients to understand a little bit, but otherwise,
yeah. You know what I mean, though. It's
Yeah.
that whole, this works for me, and actually, as long as the clients understand what the it is,
yeah,
the ones that wouldn't work for are not your ideal client, are they?
Yeah.
You know, the ones who I see it in other people's membership spaces I'm in. There are people who can't gel with the way it's run, and that's okay. They're just, that's not the membership for them right now. It might be a year, 2 years, 6 months down the line, but right now they need something slightly different.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. I find that fascinating that people stay in memberships like that where it doesn't click because there's so many others, or it's just, I find that interesting. Yeah.
Well, that's that is a really interesting conversation, because all they'd need to do would be to cancel the direct debit, wouldn't they? Anyway,
Yeah, that's a conversation for a different.
That.
Yeah.
That definitely is.
Yeah. Okay, so I have one kind of like the second to last question that I normally ask, and that is for anybody who is listening, who they want to do the next brave thing, or they want to follow maybe that rebellious curiosity, but something in them is stopping them. They feel blocked, or it's not the right time yet, or something like that. What advice would you give to that person to, move forward?
That could go, that's such a big question, isn't it? I think the starting point for me is recognizing that we are very often our own biggest block, because of the stories that we've built up over our lives about who we are and who we should be. And I think, I'm not sure, my experience certainly hasn't been that you can shift that block like that. You can do one thing and it's gone. But I think committing to yourself, committing to learn to advocate for yourself and trust yourself and figure it out, which might be more witnessing yourself than actual practical doing stuff, but making that commitment to, this really matters to me. This is something that my soul, my whatever you want to call it, you know, this is a major desire for me, and it keeps popping up and I can't let it go. And I am going to do what I can to shift whatever this thing is. And and actually I think sometimes what stops us is we try one thing and it doesn't work, and we go, oh well, that boulder is far too big to shift. Well, actually perhaps it removed a tiny bit of sand from the other side of it that we can't see, and that willingness to keep going back and chipping away at it, or, you know, whatever the analogy you'd like to use, that's eventually going to move that boulder. But we live in a society that expects everything now, don't we? You know, we no longer, I was talking to somebody yesterday, we no longer have to wait a week for the next episode of whatever it is that we're watching to come out. We don't have to wait for anything apart from perhaps, I don't know, takeaway food or something. It's all just so immediate. But this journey to ourselves, to shifting those blocks, is ever evolving. And sometimes you just have to trust that you are moving in the right direction, even when you can't see the evidence. That's tricky, but I think the more you give yourself permission to do that, the more you do it, the more you shift.
Oh, wow. I love that. That's so powerful. And I think there can also be kind of this thing of like maybe even just being like, no, I know that it's going to work. I know that something's going to come up to help me to where I want to go. And it can be, I don't know, some value in maybe being a little stubborn, like from my perspective. Like it's just no, like without being too prescriptive on the end vision of it, it's like, yes, I want to have a successful business. That's going to happen. And yeah, that would support me. Yeah,
without being too prescriptive on
yeah.
the end vision. I love that,
Oh, do
because
you?
I think that that's what trips us up. It's definitely tripped me up. It has to be this way, and if I don't get right now in my here and now evidence that I am going to get to that really prescriptive vision, then I'm failing.
Yeah.
But actually, when you let yourself go, well, this is the broad direction I'm going in, and let us remember, entrepreneurship is that, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, kind of in a this way. I like to think of it. It's like in an up way, like yes, there's ups and downs, but we're on a general,
a wiggly graph, aren't we?
Yeah.
Yeah. So when we let ourselves off that hook of wanting it to be a certain way, and just go, right, this is my broad destination, let's see where the journey takes us, that's when it becomes easier. And something I've been playing with a lot recently as well is that whole failure is necessary, because we don't learn from our successes.
Absolutely.
And that, again, as coming full circle to the beginning of this conversation, the good girl conditioning makes that really difficult to get on board with, but it's true.
Oh, not just the good girl conditioning, the school conditioning of if you don't get everything right, you get back a grade or something like that. Yeah. It's
That's
not really
a whole conversation in itself too.
Yeah. It's not really taught to us in society. I mean, it might be different for future generations just because they've got access to all of this other knowledge through the internet that we didn't have, or at least I didn't have. And yeah, just interesting. Yeah. So I love what you say about that. So, okay, so where can people find you? How do people get in touch with you? Of course, there'll be links in the show notes and things like that. But yeah, for those who are like me and don't want to go clicking, but they just want to go quickly, where do they find
It's in two places fundamentally. One is my Instagram, which is at I am Lou Portass. And then I hold everything else over on Telegram. So I have a free Telegram group where we talk about some of this stuff, not on the deep level that we will inside home, where I share I want to say bi-monthly, but it depends on the month. With every new and full moon, I do a little kind of ritual pack of an affirmation, things you might be feeling, ways to work with the energies. That goes in there. And it's kind of the beginning of that conversation around who we are and getting connected with ourselves. So it's those two places, and I will share with you the link for that, but it is, again, it's called Spark, that one. The idea being that this is the place you get to reignite that spark inside you that leads you to want to come home to yourself. But Telegram handles are weird, so I won't even try to tell you what that one is. It's a load of numbers, but I will share that one with you. Those are my two main free spaces, and home will be coming soon, and I probably, by the time this goes live, will have a link for that one for you as well.
Awesome. Fantastic. Thank you so much, Lou, for all of your time today and for sharing all of your stories and just really inspiring me. Like, I just feel so connected and just, connecting to the idea of the feminine energy and the flow and the rebellious curiosity. It's like, oh, like, I love being a rebel. This is why I have a business. So yeah, I'm just like, oh, where can I apply that? And then that's not how you taught me to do that, but now I'm like, oh. So yeah,
it is a bit though. It is a bit work. It's like, oh well, let me go down this route for a minute, And it might, I think it's that trust that it might not take you anywhere, and that's okay, but it might just illuminate something amazing for you.
True. Awesome. Thank you so much for your time. And yeah, unless there's anything that you want to say before we finish up, I'll do the goodbye. Yeah.
Just thank you very much for inviting me. It's been wonderful.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Business Bravery podcast. Has this episode inspired you to do something brave? Even if it's only send a difficult email, please share it with me on Instagram or other social media channels. Feel free to tag me at Tiffany G Studios. That's TIFFANY. G for golf, STUDIOS, no spaces, no underscores, etc. Or you can use the hashtag Business Bravery Podcast so that I can cheer you on, and together we can inspire other coaches and course creators to do brave things in their business and life. Now, I'm Tiffany, and I'll leave you with this one last thing. What's one brave thing you're going to do today? It doesn't have to be big. Even the smallest steps can create the most massive results. So again, feel free to share it with me either publicly or privately so that I can cheer you on. That's it from me. Until next time, bye for now.